What is that? Like, oh, it's my... It's fine.
Qdoba's new mini burrito bowls unite those who love small things with those who love massive flavor. Like juicy chicken grilled daily to perfection and delicious.
Okay. Your sound super needs to be off, though. Hey, my one viewer who is probably me as I just say that and realize. Just on early. Don't like that. Hey, new watcher. We're gonna start at 9, so until then, just sort of hanging out. There's the chat room off to your right. If you want to chat with me, you can type and text. You know how that goes. Never mind. We'll be starting in 8 minutes. Until then, go ahead and sit back and enjoy the music. And if you want to chat, you can use the chat room off to the right. Alright, I was going to do a cool countdown GIF thing, but I think I'm going to change my mind. I've never done this before, so let's go ahead and get started. My name is Newt Banshee, or Alexis Stringham, depending on if you know me in real life or on the internet. And this is going to be a stream where I start building a world from the ground up. This is going to be a lot of world building today. We'll eventually get into like creating some specific dungeons and maybe making some like unique monsters and things like that, which are more D&D centric. But today is definitely going to be a lot more story focused than that, I guess. It's going to look a lot like writing and world building and stuff. So if you're looking for like I don't know, D&D content that you can grab quickly and drop into your game, this probably isn't it. But if you're looking to see the creative process that goes into making worlds, then this is the video for you, or stream for you, depending on if you're watching it now or later. So, this is where we're going to start. I've put this together here, and you can see that when I usually start brainstorming, I usually come up with a table, or if I'm doing it in Word, I might divide it into 4 columns or whatever. But it's a column for setting, for character, for organizations, and then just for other ideas that I have, which might be questions or thoughts or whatever as I'm coming up with things. And you'll see I do a lot of writing and stuff below this and everything. But so I have done almost zero thought on this world. My only starting point is that I have this idea that I really like spells being like a physical thing. Like a fireball spell is basically a person that's going about in the world and existing in the world, as a humanoid. But that there are mages or wizards or sorcerers, and we'll come up with that kind of terminology later. That's part of the world building. But that can either bind the spells and to them directly, which means that spell serves only that person and it retains a lot of its power. Or spells can be bound in words and symbols and put into things like books. And that would be more of the typical wizard. The spells lose some of their power when that happens, so they don't have the same potential, but they can be accessed by a lot of people at once instead of being confined to the single person that's bound it. So that's sort of my starting pitch, and some of the things we're going to look into about that are, okay, if spells are like sentient people, are there, what are the moral implications of binding a spell? Where do the spells originally come from? I'm thinking that they don't, reproduce physically. So we need to figure out where they actually come from and how often there's new ones and things like that. And then for a setting idea, I just have this idea about a massive city, that has a, powerful shadow government that's run by a consortium of these powerful spells. I like the idea of there being almost a, Godfather-esque sort of organization / mob that's kind of behind the scenes, run by spells, that really control the power in this city that we're talking about. Even though they're not the actual government, but they are like the shadow government. So that's where we're starting here. One of the things I did think about earlier today is that I think this is a steampunk setting. Lots and lots of steam power going on here. Especially where I think a lot of the development's going to go into this first city. That I like the idea of a steampunk, because steampunk's really good about specific cities. So we're gonna need a couple characters here for the organization. We're gonna need like a head of most powerful spell family, and then I think we want to have maybe like 3 other families here. You're gonna say I'm not going into names yet. But second powerful family head and third powerful family head. All of these will basically control their own families. Let's do this here. First crime family has the most influence, mostly involved in politics. I think that they like bribe people in power and corrupts them. They need something to finance that, though, so their financing comes from controlling a drug trade and a gambling trade in the richest areas of the city. And then the second crime family equal to power, equal in power to the third family. They control I know we just did drug trade, but I think they control drug trade in the rest of the city. Where would they be spending influence? I'm not sure yet here. Where are they spending their money and influence? Question mark. The third family I think deals in black market magical goods. I really like that. Also probably like prostitution and an assassins and low crime. Assassination, thieves guild, etc. Where are they spending money and influence? All crime families are constantly vying for power, but also unite against threats that would affect them all. All right, so we're already coming up with kind of a crime family that's run by spells and things here. I think that this is probably a fairly like a fairly low magic setting. Not that there isn't magic, but magic not held by spells is frowned on, maybe even a crime. Because of the moral implications, I think we have some kind of big ones here. Imprisoning / killing a sentient creature. So binding a spell is inherently selfish. I'm not going to say evil. I don't like things like good or evil, but it is inherently selfish. You're binding power to yourself at the cost of another creature. So that's a thing. Let's think about where spells come from for a second. I think that we're going to have to think extra planar for this. Maybe spells come from... So the astral plane is the connection point to all the other elemental planes, and it's a mess of chaos elemental energy. When energies collide, spells are born and literally thrown into the material world by the force of the collision. Yeah, so I like the idea that we have this astral plane, which is usually seen as a sort of like kind of peaceful, maybe like travel area. Here to be like the force of a collision. So I think we're going to have like a four-tiered metropolis. Lowest tier is the steam pumps and probably some like mining operations, I guess. Mining operations. It's super low / worker class. Workers aren't treated well, work in super dangerous conditions. Don't have resources to leave though. Mostly trapped and enslaved, maybe? Let's do the second tier. Not sure what the second tier is. I like the third tier. Yes, I was telling you how I use Scrivener. The third tier is probably like a merchant thing. And I am paying attention to you. There's just like a 10-second delay. Yeah, so actually, I do want to tell you how I use Scrivener, though. Like, so I have this one document that's literally all of, it's basically my DM's binder. And every time I start a new game, I add things here. So, like, this is my Curse of Strahd game, and, like, this is my Death House notes for when I created Death House and stuff. And this is my urban fantasy game that I'm running with friends and stuff. And then obviously this is the one that I'm working on now. So anytime I start a new setting or creation, I create a new folder, and that way it's all in the same place, but they're sort of like separate folders and workspaces and stuff too. I really like it. Super convenient. Third tier merchants. You have a text file of the DeathCon scenario we made? Oh, awesome. I would kind of like that at some point. Yeah, those would be awesome. I'd enjoy that. So the third tier of this steampunk city I'm creating, it's gotta be... Okay. It's gotta be merchants. Maybe temple. Not sure how religious I want to get, though. Definitely like middle class, though. Kind of like I don't know. But then the fourth tier is super rich. Government buildings, palaces, always steam power is vented just below the fourth tier, which means that it's kept out of this one. But I think that means that like steam falls from vents into this tier, so it's always super moist / foggy. This is like the lowest tier is always super gritty / greasy. You know, this could contain... Why do people hate the word moist? It's just a word. Contains a subway for sure. Yeah, I guess it is kind of a weird word, but I really don't know what I want this second tier to be. Maybe like low class housing. Probably people commute to lower tier for jobs. maybe like in... I don't know. All right, I think we might leave it at that right now. But we've got a like 4-tier steampunk city ruled by crime families that are ruled by spells. I like it. Maybe we need to think about what the actual government looks like here. I don't know the answer to this. And this is, I guess, where we really start figuring out like what the tone and the flavor of this is going to be. So I'm already looking into like a gritty feeling. Steampunk I like a lot because it gets so kind of gritty and things like that. So I think maybe the government might be like a corrupt, not like a monarchy, like a corrupt republic, I guess. I like the idea of it being a corrupt republic. As a corrupt republic. I do think it needs to be capitalist. Super capitalist. Is this like a... This is a big metropolis. Is this like a capital city of like an imperialistic... like, is it center of an imperialistic thing? Or is it like a, city hidden in fog, or city hidden in steam/fog that's like the most advanced but super isolated, like Wakanda style maybe. But a colonizing power definitely gives it more. So I guess the difference there, yeah, so the difference between the two, I think, is if it's a colonizing power, that means they're the more powerful, and the tone and interest is what are they colonizing, how is that affecting the world, versus if they're super isolationist, then the story has to be they are super isolationist, but that's being intruded on. And that might make for a more direct story. If the isolationism is getting intruded on, you don't have to leave the city for that story to be happening. I think we're gonna go... And maybe it's not capitalist then, because maybe it doesn't like to trade very much. So it's I think it's a corrupt republic. It's self-sustaining, which maybe that second tier is like farming stuff somehow. I like that, like, farming. Weird steampunk farming. Steampunk farms. I don't know what the word is. Oligarchy, maybe? Like... But I'd... Oh, like a caste system. Yeah. Yeah, this needs to be a caste system. Definitely a caste system. And some sort of weird way for caste to be picked. Maybe not by family or birth, but yeah, and they're like the middle class. That's like the best place to live, except for on the top. I don't know. Maybe I switch the like second and third tiers. So like the second tier is merchants, but also like low class housing and always shrouded in steam. And then the third tier is sort of like a farming area, which is actually maybe sort of nice. Not as nice as the like super fancy like palaces and cathedrals and stuff that's up on the top tier, but like I don't know, like I think I maybe like that idea. We might have to work for that. But castes like picked by a steam robot at birth, at coming of age ceremony or something. I like the idea. Did that. There's this weird steam-powered robot thing at the center of the city that used to be a caretaker when this was a utopia. So now we're in a fallen utopia, which is good flavor too. Yeah, I really like. Okay, so we're gonna change the second tier. Is always covered in steam. Maybe this is like a production area. Textiles, warehouses, etc. Whereas the this is mostly like city maintenance. Okay, so this is third tier. Yeah, I like that this is like merchants and farming. Actually fairly nice area. This area, inhabitants turn a blind eye to the other tiers because they know it would be easy to be them. Very little empathy towards them. Lots of social friction. And because we have social friction, we should have a terrorist group. That's an organization. Terrorist group. Maybe it's like a terrorist group that's like unions trying to form. Like we're right in the middle of like unions trying to form and they're not being taken seriously. So like, yeah, union forming, not working out well, and so have turned to violence. Actually, I want to change this. This is completely disenfranchised. I have no idea how to spell that. Workers want to destroy all the city building stuff to bring down the city structure entirely. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then this is a protest group. And sometimes violent, but don't want to see the city fall, but want to form unions. So I like the idea there that, like, you have these, like, groups that just literally want to bring the whole system down. I think that, like, this is steampunk. This is just going to be a regular kind of, like, idea, which is ooh, I love that. Use steam fog as cover for attacks and retreat. I love that idea. That's very good. The city was built a super long time ago, and the tech to build it is lost. So it can be repaired to a point, but only to a point. Which is maybe a bit, there's a word for it, and I've lost it. Old hat, I'm going to say. But I think it's good for a reason, yeah. Alright, so I think we have a bunch of characters that need to happen now. We need to have a, like, how about four like, government reps, supposed to be one from each tier, but not really representative. So we're gonna have to come up with these guys. We need a terrorist group leader. And we need a protest group leader. And then what's the judicial system here? Like, I think we need, oh, hey, so this is something good. This is actually something useful I can give to people. And you're going to laugh, but it's the sperm approach to building. S is society. P is political. E is economical, R is religion, M is military. So we've already dug into society a little bit. We know it's a caste building system, things like that. We're starting to dig into political a little bit, especially with, I think a lot, especially with like protest groups and terrorists and a corrupt government and probably the, I know, but I love the acronym so much. It makes me smile, and it's easy to remember because it's so weird. So I think we need to go back to the economy. We kind of strayed away from that because it was going to be super capitalist. But I actually think that with it being a tiered system, with it being a caste system like it is, it might be like a communist society, right? In fact, I like the idea. The city is a communist place. When the caretaker thing was in charge, it actually worked really well. But now that it's breaking down, things are falling apart. Resources are more scarce, which adds more to that, like, competition of resources and worried about, you know, being lost down to castes and things. Even top tier is becoming less well kept. Parts of palaces have to be cordoned. I have cordoned off because of structural problems, things like that. Cordoned, there we go. And structural. Look at spell check be amazing for me. Yeah. But so I think it's but the rich are trying to change it. Rich are trying to change things. But although their plans are usually beneficial to society in thought and maybe even ideals, in reality they are just beneficial to themselves. A black market of house parts. I love that. I think that goes in organizations here. This is a song from Bleach called Never Meant to Be Long, and it's a violin cover by Taylor Davis. Who, here, I'll put a link to it. That's a link to it if you're interested. I really, really like her. She does a bunch of violin covers of things. Black market of housing parts. Yeah. Of housing parts. Let's see. Alright, so now I think I want to think about military. What's going on with the military here? I don't know the answer to this yet. At all. I don't know that I want to go the, like, secret police route, so maybe there just isn't a lot of military. Here we go. Oh my gosh. Lack of resources has led to very little ability to keep a standing army, which makes it really hard for any laws to be enforced practically. Terrorists get away with things a lot because there just aren't the resources to track them down.
Not your music.
Lots
Listen anywhere, anytime.
of wanted posters and
All
rewards
your music, no
because
You
a
Start your free trial.
Old West style take the law in your own hands type of enforcement is much less expensive. This is a good adventure hook. Find the wanted poster, go track someone down. And I really like that. And now also I like that city is being threatened with invasion, maybe. I actually, before we talk about invasion, I actually want to go back to these spells. And I want to go probably just over here in ideas again. Like, maybe this isn't as low magic as I thought. I was going to have this be low magic, but maybe not low magic. If spells are crime families, they probably don't have a good public reputation. Like the heads of the families probably do, but also spells probably have a rep as being murderers and stuff. Maybe having gang wars in the streets and stuff. So binding spells might be seen as law enforcement, which then means I like that. Okay, we've got about 15 minutes left here. While I still have 15 minutes, I guess, do people have thoughts or questions about, like, the whole kind of point of this video is to not just build something, but to show sort of what my building process is. So like showing sperm and showing the way I, especially like this is a brainstorming process, right? So the way I separate categories of brainstorming and things. Do people have questions or thoughts on it that people would want to hear about here? Continuing questions. What outside forces are acting on the city, intruding on its isolation? Isolation. I did not spell that right. Yeah, I guess the thought there is there's kind of two ways to start with world building, in my mind. There's probably more than this, but, a lot of times I start from like a top level and go down, where I start caring more about like, how were the gods created, and what did the gods do, and what impact did that have on the world, and what does the map of the world look like, and then sort of work from the top down, where this definitely ended up being more bottom up. And I think the reason for that is that coming into this, I sort of had this idea. I'm gonna skip this song that's not, oh, this is an ad, okay. But it's like, coming into this, I sort of had this idea of a steampunk city ruled by crime syndicates formed by spells, and so that was sort of my like thought process coming into here. So now it's sort of like building up from that, which is answering eventually what the outside forces acting on the city are, and then where they come from and what's going on over there. And I'll probably take like a rippling approach outwards. But so definitely like I approach things in different ways, depending on where my head's at. And eventually I will probably switch from this sort of low down and get a better idea of what's happening at a cosmic level. Like I've already talked about like the astral plane being where spells are born, and how it's, instead of being just sort of this like reflection, you get this like colliding mass of elemental energies that are kind of like the birthplace for the spells. And yes, going bottom to top is really nice for if you have to start DMing it later. Like really, if I had to run with this tomorrow, I'd probably have like, I'll work harder on this, but if I had to run with it tomorrow, I would come up with names for the characters I've listed, names for the organizations and motivations for them, and a name for the city, and I would have enough material here to just go and run at this point, I think. And then, like, just throughout play, you would take notes and develop it in play. And yes, names are super the worst. I obviously haven't even thought about names here yet. Usually when I come up with names, I take a real world area or language and either come up, so like if I was like, oh, this is a Celtic area, it's probably not a Celtic area. It might be like I don't know. Names might be Asian based maybe here, or I don't know. Anyways, you come up with like the area of the real world where names come from, and then I usually draw name lists, or I go to Google Translate and I translate words into that language and then change them a little bit. So like, I'll do an example just because like we only have a couple minutes left here, and I'm sure you've probably done this yourself. But so I will often be like, all right, I'm going to go through these, and you know what? Corsican sounds like it might be fun. I have no idea what Corsican sounds like, but my head spell, let's see. So like the most powerful spell of the most powerful syndicate, let's say, is like a ice sleet sort of spell. So I might look up sleet, and it turns out that Corsican is pretty much the same, so that's not going to work. But what about Gujarati? I have no idea even where that comes from, but that's Slenta or Slenta. But so I might take that. I actually might just go ahead and do this. Names based off the, did I say Gujarati? Gujarati language. Do some research about where that language comes from. So that's something that I would need to do. But Salenta, I think I would take that name and say that his name is maybe just that for now. Slinta. Ice sleet spell. Living spell. Yeah. So like actually that gives us maybe I'll go ahead and name all of these while I'm thinking about it. What's another fun spell? Maybe like a disintegrate. Vigatana. I wonder if this is like a like an Arabic language almost. I don't know. That'll be interesting. I'll do some I would end up doing some research about like where this language came from and stuff too, which would help me also flavor things and stuff like that. I think I like Karavum better than Vigatana, so I'm gonna say Karavum. Karavum. I think I like Karavume. Well, look at you knowing all your fancy stuff. Disintegrate spell. I actually like the idea that like a detect magic detection. Sodha. Sodha. which is literally just like a detect magic spell, which is like a first level spell, but I like the idea that like someone weak in power like that, but like is maybe just really like good at playing the politics of the situation. And that's why this one's the one dealing in the like black market magic goods and things like that, and assassination and things. I kind of like that idea a lot. And then maybe I would pick a different language to do. I like the idea actually that like maybe the mortals, the humans in the city are come from a different language, which is maybe either Nordic or Chinese. I'm not sure which. Which of those do you like better, Nordic or Chinese? I have here, I use this site all the time for names. I'll actually, if we go home, I will actually put a link in there too. JKLMN Norman. Norman is not Nordic. Do you not have a Nordic list? Norwegian's probably Nordic, right? Norway's up in that area. Yeah, I kind of like this idea. So like humans here are Nordic. Spell names based of the that human names are Nordic area names. Finland, Norway, etc. And then still have to think about like where do different races and things like that come in too, which is a continuing question. Do non-human races come in? If they're really all part of the same culture, like if it's like a melting pot, then a lot of them would probably have pretty similar names still. I would add some like touches, some like immigrant touches to it. But if they've been all living together for a really long time, which I think is sort of the idea behind this, which is they used to be a utopia, right? Then like their culture has probably blended enough together that their names are pretty similar, and there's probably only a difference between like spell names and mortal names because like I think the spells have always tried to keep a step away from everyone else, or the humans have tried to keep a step away from them. Yeah, I don't know. This is we're at 10 o'clock, which has been an hour here. So I actually think I'm going to leave it off here. I am probably going to spend some time actually putting all of this together off camera and then making maybe like a nice home brewery format of the city to put on my blog and things like that. But definitely I'm going to do streaming probably every Sunday night now, where I do something in it. And a dungeon idea. A mage hand spell has taken refuge in a cave. Now there are magical hands all over the place that want to destroy intruders. Can you get to the bottom of the cave and bind the spell? And we're gonna go ahead and end it there. Thanks for coming, people. I super appreciate the support from you two. You were both awesome, and I had fun interacting with you, and I hope you had fun interacting with me, and I will talk to you guys later and figure out how to end a stream. Stop streaming, stop